Building a digital product is complex, demanding, uncertain. And that's where we come in. We're a group of creative thinkers, digital product specialists, dreamers, and team players. With over 15 years in the industry, 400 innovators, 50 awards, building over 150 digital products for our global customers. We engage in your awesome idea and help bring it to life. 99x, creating impactful digital products together. Building a digital product is complex, demanding, uncertain. And that's where we come in. We're a group of creative thinkers, digital product specialists, dreamers, and team players. With over 15 years in the industry, 400 innovators, 50 awards, building over 150 digital products for our global customers. We engage in your awesome idea and help bring it to life. 99x, creating impactful digital products together.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day three of Quality Week 2023, organized by the Colombo Quality Camp and proudly sponsored by our strategic partner, 99x, headquartered in Norway with offices in Oslo and Colombo, Sri Lanka. 99x is one of Asia's best workplaces and a global leader in agile product engineering and technology innovation. We are also pleased to acknowledge our education partner, the Sri Lanka Software Testing Board, a non-profit organization that represents the, the national industry interests and promotes the broad profession of software testing. It is comprised of a group of experienced experts in software testing who volunteer their time to the development, maintenance, and promotion of the ISTQB certified tester program in Sri Lanka. As always, Quality Week aims to bring the industry experts to discuss vital topics that will further enrich your knowledge and experience. We have two amazing sessions lined up for you today, and we encourage you to join in the sessions hosted over the next 2 days. I'm Anupama Disanayaka, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. Before we start with our sessions for the day, let me kindly remind you to type in any questions you have for our speakers in the chat, and our speakers will answer them at the end of each session. With that said, please join me in welcoming our first speaker for today, Hiran Karandenia, the Head of Quality and Continuous Improvement at Vista Group, all the way from the vibrant city of Auckland, New Zealand. With an impressive 13-year career in software quality engineering, Hiran has seamlessly navigated the diverse spectrum of quality assurance, from agile QA processes to manual testing, test automation, performance testing, and the intricacies of testing in DevOps. He has been at the forefront of innovation in the software testing domain. Passionate about pushing the boundaries of what's possible, Hiran will be enlightening us on the fundamentals and frontiers of exploratory testing. His deep insights into the ever evolving nature of our industry promise to provide us with a fresh perspective on the cutting edge of exploratory testing. Without further delay, let's dive into the world of software quality with Hiran Karandenia. Over to you, Hiran.
Anupama. Hello and good evening, everyone. So hope all of you are having a nice evening already. And like Anupam said, there's been some interesting sessions over the last couple of weeks, last couple of days, and I know some interesting sessions are lined up for the next 2 days as well. So without further ado, let me straight away go into my presentation. Let me share my screen. Can I get a confirmation whether you can see my screen, Anupama? Maybe.
Yes, Hiran. Yeah, we
Okay,
can see.
perfect. Yeah. So, like Anupam said, so I'm going to start the first session for today on the topic of fundamentals and frontiers of exploratory testing. So, when it comes to exploratory testing, I think most of you who have joined here today, I believe you know this topic at least to some extent. But most often, we do not see the full potential of exploratory testing. So today in my session, I'm planning to start with a bit of basics around exploratory testing, especially if there are anyone in the audience who are new to our industry. And then I'll be taking you through some of the myths that are associated with exploratory testing, and then some best practices around doing exploratory testing. And towards the end of my session, I'm planning to talk about some of the recent developments in this arena, especially with the popularity of the artificial intelligence, the AI context, how it influencing the exploratory testing, and what the future holds for the same. And also, I'm planning to end the session with a question whether we can automate exploratory testing. Right. So let's move on to the first section, which is exploratory testing basics, the fundamentals. Yeah. So before we talk about exploratory testing, let's have a quick look at what is testing and what's the purpose of testing. So there are many definitions. I mean, different people define testing in different ways. But one of the simplest way to put that is testing is we simply verifying the products or the software that we develop. We verifying whether they are meeting the end user expectations. So at any stage, there can be two sides. Like one is what we know about the product or the software, and the other one is what we don't know about the product or software. So especially at the beginning of the software development process, what we don't know part is the bigger part, where there can be so many uncovered problems or defects, as we call it, or bugs in that what we don't know part. So that's where the testing comes in, and as a way to close that gap between what we know and what we don't know. to reveal the problems in our software. So how we can do that? There are two fundamental ways where we can execute these testing. One way is by checking, or we call it the formal testing. The other one is exploring, or the exploratory testing. Let's first look at what checking is. Now, checking is, or a check is simply an assertion in a simple terms. So it's answering this question as in the slide, like, does this assertion pass or fail? For example, we may have some expected outcome of the from the software or the product, and then after executing the test steps, we get the actual outcome. So we have the expected one and the actual one, and we compare these two, and it often produces a binary result, whether it's true or false, yes or no, or some numerical value. So in that sense, a check is machine decidable. And for that very reason, it is often called as formal testing or scripted testing. Now, there are two ways we can execute these checks. One is with the help of machines. We call them automated testing. The other one is executing these test cases manually. We call it manual checking or manual testing. But at the end of the day, checking is all about confirming the existing belief, or what we define as test cases. Now, in comparison, what is exploring or exploratory testing? Now, there's this person called Michael Bolton. You may have heard about him. He co-founded the rapid software testing concept with another great personality called James Beck. So I had the privilege of going to one of Michael's speeches recently, and had the opportunity to have a chat with him later on. So he has a nice way of explaining exploratory testing. In his words, we human beings are born as explorers. So you take a newborn baby. I mean, since the moment that they start perceiving the world around them, they start exploring. It can be an image or a light that we perceive through the eye. We want to explore that. It can be a new sound. We want to explore that and learn. So it's about exploring and learning the surroundings, and life is all about exploring and learning the world around us. So it's the same concept that is applied into exploratory testing as well. In exploratory testing, it's all about learning the products or learning the software that we are testing. Yeah, that's the simplest way of putting it. So, and the other thing is, another way to look at this is, in exploratory testing, our focus is on what we don't know. So we are trying to uncover the what we don't know part, and try to learn the product and the internals of it. So moving on, let's see what the definition for exploratory testing is. So as per the ISTQB definition, exploratory testing is an approach to testing where testers dynamically design and execute tests. So this dynamically part is the key here. In other words, in exploratory testing, we learn the product, design the test cases, and execute them on the fly, dynamically. Simple as that. So before we dive deep into exploratory testing, let's take a look at a little bit of history about exploratory testing. So this gentleman here, Kim Kerner, he's the first man to coin the term exploratory testing back in 1988. So up until then, what we had was, as we all know, ad hoc testing. But since he introduced the term exploratory testing, it gained so much popularity among testers and QA managers around the world as a complement to their existing testing strategies. But it was back in 2016, the greatest revolution happened in the exploratory testing history, when James Bax and Michael Bolton kind of redefined the exploratory testing. So as per their definition, exploratory testing is about learning, designing, and executing the test cases. So these mutually supportive activities can be run in parallel throughout the project. So that throughout the project part is the important one in their definition, because oftentimes we tend to limit exploratory testing to the testing phase only, but their encouragement is to not scope it to the testing phase alone, rather make it, use exploration throughout the software development lifecycle. That's when you get to uncover some interesting observations, issues, not only in the products that we are testing, even in our development processes. Right. So next up, let's take a look at how exploratory testing differs from the scripted testing or the formal testing. So in formal testing, we create our test cases and scripts well in advance and upfront. Whereas in exploratory testing, the tests are designed and executed on the fly. And in scripted testing or the formal testing, we have a limited room for flexibility and spontaneous adjustments during the test execution, because you are pretty much what you're doing is referring to the already created test cases and following those steps and executing that. But whereas in exploratory testing, you have more freedom to be more creative, use your instincts and your experience, and create your own test designs on the fly. The next one is the learning part. So in formal testing, the learning happens outside the test execution phase, especially towards the beginning. Whereas in exploratory testing, learning is an integral part of test execution itself. So these are the key differences between the formal testing and exploratory testing. So moving on to the next section, which is demystifying some of the exploratory testing myths associated with that. So probably the main one that is going around is there's a myth in exploratory testing is ad hoc testing. While these are some related concepts, they are not considered same anymore, because especially since 2006, when the exploratory testing was, when those two gentlemen gave kind of a different meaning towards exploratory testing. So in exploratory testing, it's more of a structured testing than ad hoc testing, whereas in ad hoc one, it's informal and spontaneous. While both are unplanned, in exploratory testing, we often have a general direction or a goal, whereas in ad hoc testing, it's less organized. We don't really have a goal in that. That's the main difference between the exploratory testing and ad hoc testing. So in both cases, path is not predefined. But in exploratory testing, we have a goal, and it's up to us to identify our path and go towards that goal during that exploratory testing session. Whereas in ad hoc testing, we don't have a goal like that. It's simply kind of a spontaneous act. So in that sense, exploratory testing is more structured and quite different to ad hoc testing. Some other myths, pretty much the first two are related to the previous one. So there's one myth called known as exploratory testing is unstructured and unplanned. It's not the case. That is ad hoc testing, not exploratory. And the second one is exploratory testing is random and chaotic. Again, that is ad hoc testing, not exploratory testing. So we talked about that as well. So the third one is exploratory testing is time consuming and inefficient, which is not necessarily the case, because one of the best practices in exploratory testing is to time box our sessions. So we can make it efficient using some of the exploratory testing techniques, which I'll be talking in upcoming slides. And the last one is exploratory testing replaces scripted testing or the formal testing. So that's, I would say, not going to happen, because both these testing have their own merits. So if you are to have a balanced testing practice, it's important that we have a combination of both to get a comprehensive coverage. Right. So moving on, let's take a look at some of the best practices in exploratory testing. So the first and foremost, the key thing is understanding the application or the software, the purpose of the software or the product that we are testing, why it is built, what's the purpose of its existence. Having this understanding, and if you are going to the exploration with this understanding in the back of your head, that will yield you better results. Otherwise, you'll not be able to do a successful exploratory testing session. So it's important that you understand the purpose of the software upfront. And then we talked about exploratory testing being a structured testing. So it's important that we define our testing objectives upfront. Like what is the goal of our testing? What are the objectives? And what are the areas or features or user workflows that we are going to cover during our exploratory testing sessions? And especially if your application has multiple modules, and if your team has multiple testers who are going to do exploratory testing in parallel, it's important that you divide the modules and identify owners for each module to minimize the overlap. Otherwise, sometimes multiple people may end up testing the same module and identifying the same defects, doing redundant testing, while some other modules are untouched. So the third one is time box sessions. So like I mentioned, it is very important that we time box our exploratory testing sessions. The general convention is to have 1 to 2 hours of time windows. By doing that, we can maintain our focus and prevent over exploration in certain areas, and make sure that we are not wasting time, and we are managing our time to the in an efficient way. So moving on, some of the other effective ways or best practices are to utilize exploratory testing techniques. So there are certain techniques, like in the formal testing world, we have so many testing techniques. Similarly, in exploratory testing as well, there are certain techniques like session-based session-based testing, which is time boxing and creating a test charter, and then approach with a goal and scope to the testing. And then scenario-based testing, where you take some of the real-world user scenarios and base your exploration around those scenarios. So using these techniques, we can get better results from our exploration process. The next one is session recording. So it is very important, whenever it is possible, we should record our exploratory testing sessions, because like we discussed, we are defining our test cases on the fly, and we are doing some spontaneous acts. So sometimes you may end up uncovering or identifying a critical defect in the system, but you may not remember the steps that took you to producing that defect. So at that point, if you have a recording, you can probably play it back later, and maybe you can easily recreate those steps later on, and even you can share that with other stakeholders like developers for when you are logging the defect. The next one is use of exploratory testing tools. So there are some of the tools and browser extensions and even some test management software nowadays coming with specific views and modules and features providing specifically for exploratory testing. So make use of these tools will help us doing the exploratory testing in an efficient manner. So let's take a look at some of the popular exploratory testing tools. So if you are using, if you're testing a browser web-based application in let's say a Chrome browser, there are a couple of there are many extensions, but for couple of popular ones are exploratory testing Chrome extension and Bug Magnet. And similarly, there are some test management tools like TestStaff, Zephyr, and even test management tools like TestRail are now having certain features specifically built for exploratory testing, session management. So let me play a video on this the exploratory testing Chrome extension, the browser extension. So this can be used if you are testing a web application on Chrome browser. So using the Chrome extensions store, you can get the extension installed. So how we can use it now? It gives you these options. Now, when you are doing when you are in the middle of an exploratory testing session, you may come up with an idea or a question, or you may want to take a note to refer later, or it can be even a bug that you have identified. So it's not a good practice to stop your exploratory testing and go talk to other stakeholders at that point. Rather, the best practice is to take a quick note and continue with your exploratory testing until your time window is over, and later on follow up with the observation. So this extension helps us with taking quick notes with screenshots and view that later. So it can be a question, or it can be taking a note, or it can be a bug that you have identified where the zip code is not validated. So you can take a note and take a screenshot. The good thing is at the end of the session, it provides it can generate the session report that will contain all the notes that we have taken with the links to the web page and the screenshot. You can easily export this and share with the other stakeholders later on. So the other extension is the Bug Magnet Chrome extension. So this is a very handy companion to have when you are going into exploratory testing session, especially in a web application. Let's say you are validating a form kind of a thing where you have certain inputs, you want to do some input validation. This extension has some interesting a collection of possible inputs you can provide to these input fields, like invalid emails, Unicode characters, phone numbers, and these things. So it can help you with creating certain edge scenarios and explore things, explore the behavior of the application when these inputs are provided. So yeah, it's also another interesting useful tool to have. Now let's take a look at how we can improve the testability, especially during the development time, specifically for exploratory testing. So one of the key things that we can do is implementing comprehensive logging. Now, having enough logging with sufficient information is very important, especially now when the defect is reporting. I mean, it's not only for exploratory testing, it can be useful for any troubleshooting purposes, but especially in exploratory testing, since the user does so many spontaneous tasks, and it's a mix of ad hoc testing as well. So the developer, even though we may provide them with the recording, in order for the developer to identify the root cause of the issue, the comprehensive logging in place would be very helpful, and it will enhance the reproducibility of the issues as well. And secondly, I think, I mean, as I mentioned before, so exploratory testing is best done by the experienced testers who have previous experience in doing in testing across similar applications. So when we are designing our software, it is very important that we follow user-centric design approaches so that testers can use their instincts and simulate realistic user scenarios during the exploratory testing. Thirdly, having a collaborative culture is very important, because in exploratory testing, it's all about collaboration. Even before we start the testing, we want to talk to our stakeholders to learn about the software. And even after our exploratory testing, we need to present our findings to the rest of the stakeholders, like developers, business people, product owners. So this collaborative culture is very important. Lastly, the reliable automation coverage. Now, having, I mean, as we discussed before, exploratory testing can't sit alone. I mean, we need to implement a balanced testing practice. We need to have reliable formal testing as in place as well. So there, if we have more automation, if we have a reliable automation suite with good pass rate, then the formal testing can be taken care by the automation, and that will leave some breathing space for our human testers to do some exploratory testing. So having a good automation coverage is also very important for exploratory testing. Right, now let's take a look at how exploratory testing plays a pivotal role in testing AI systems nowadays. So we live in a time where AI systems are built in large numbers, and we as testers get to test more and more AI systems. So one of the common questions going around is, do we need to change our current test approach to test the AI systems? The short answer is yes, but the good news is only slightly. So yes, we need to change our approach, but we may need to do it, some slight adaptation to our existing processes. So this is one of the common methods in, or rather common processes in testing AI systems nowadays. So it has four key stages. The first stage is learning. Next, adapting, training, and testing. So the first stage, learning, means as testers, when we are tasked with testing an AI system, the first thing we need to do is learn the concepts of AI and learn the product. So it's about learning the AI models that are there, and the techniques, and then probably go and talk to your developers and architects and try to understand what AI models are used to build the system, how it learns, what data are fed into it, and likewise learn the system. So now, as we learn so far, this learning itself contains the exploration. We are exploring the system and the AI concepts. So in that very step, what we are doing is exploring and exploratory testing. So and then as the next step, we need to adapt ourselves to the non-deterministic nature of the AI system's outputs, and then probably come up with the training data set and train the AI model, and finally test it and verifying the outcome. So I'm not going to talk more about those three steps, but what I wanted to highlight here is in the very first step, the foundation itself, exploration and the exploratory testing plays a pivotal role, even in testing AI systems. Right, so that takes me to the last section of my presentation today, which is the question I had in the beginning. Can we automate exploratory testing? Now, if I asked this question about 4 or 5 years back, the answer would be a clear no, because the traditional view we had was exploratory testing is a manual task. It requires a human element, a human presence, because it's about learning about the product, and then dynamically design the test and executing it using creativity and intuition. So all of these are like bit of human factors in it. So back in the days, if you were asked this, can you automate this? The answer would be a clear no. But even back then, we could have combined the automation with exploration to some extent. Maybe automate repetitive aspects of the testing. For example, you can run a JMeter test and stress the servers and do the exploratory testing while the servers are stressed, to explore how the system behaves under when the servers are going through a load. But that was the state back then. Fast forward a few years into 2023, and we are almost in 2024 with the outburst of AI or artificial intelligence. Now that if we ask this question, it may no longer be seen as a very unrealistic question anymore, because there are these concepts like AI for test case generation, AI-assisted test execution, visual testing with AI, and combining all these, we can probably create exploratory testing, dynamic test oracles. So this is the last slide. So I wanted to end my presentation with this kind of a model concept or an idea where we can probably automate the exploratory testing to some extent by reusing the existing functional automation from the formal testing side. Now, let's say you have a web application or a front-end application where you have page object layer, function layer, and the functional test layer. Now, the idea is to repurpose or reuse this function layer and create an exploratory testing layer with the help of a couple of AI modules. Now, if I explain it step by step, the idea is to, let's say, we start the application and take it to a certain state, and then let the exploratory testing layer observe the current state of the application, and then pass it to an AI module where it, based on its knowledge of the real world, real user workflows and past, or the historical automation executions, it suggests the next potential action that we can perform to explore from the current state. And then we perform that action using the function layer. And based on that action, the application changes its state. And then we pursue the new state through the exploratory testing layer and pass it to a different AI module, the learning module, and it learns the new state. And if there are any learnings, it passes it to the knowledge base, and it keeps on learning. And at the same time, it can try and detect any defects or any abnormalities or any interesting observations. If there are any, it can store it in the observation store. And likewise, the same cycle can continue until the exploratory testing window is completed. And at the end, the automation suite itself can process this observation store and um, notify the stakeholders with the observations, or even go on to log defects in the defect management systems. Think of it as, I mean, in our CI environment, we have our functional automation tests running, but at the same time, there's this exploratory testing bot that is running continuously, looking for continuous changes to the application, and based on that, looking for uncovered defects in the system, and notifying when it detects something abnormal to the stakeholders. So these automations will give us a good breathing space for our human testers to spend their time, their valuable time, on other advancements and other value-added testing tasks. So yes, I mean, if you are going to practically implement this, there can be certain technical difficulties and complexities, but with the recent development of or the improvements of AI and technical side of things, this is no longer an unrealistic solution. So probably in future we may see even exploratory testing is automated to some extent with help of AI and machines. Yeah. So with that, I'm done with my presentation, what I've planned for today. So I hope it's been a useful session. You had some learnings to take home. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer now with the best of my knowledge.
Thank you, Hiran, for the wonderful session on fundamentals and frontiers of exploratory testing. Now we will begin our Q&A session. So if you already haven't typed in your questions in the chat, please do so now, and Hiran will make sure to respond to them. So Hiran, currently we have 3 questions in the chat. Let me help you in reading them out. So first one, it says, how can we do exploratory testing throughout the project? Could you please elaborate this?
So it's like this now. When we say exploratory testing, what gets to our head is the test execution or the product. Playing around with the product, right? But the exploration is not specific to testing alone. So it's about learning. It's a learning activity that we can apply throughout the software development life cycle. So let's say during the requirement analysis and gathering phase, we can explore the requirements document, and we can try and learn something there as well. And then when it comes to design stage, again, likewise, throughout the phase, we can apply exploration. And yeah, testing may be specifically on the test execution part, but the exploration is a continuous process. It can be applied throughout the life cycle. I hope I answered that question.
Okay, thank you very much, Hiran. We have a few more questions in the chat, but since due to time constraints, I think that's all we can take in today. But you can reach
I'll answer
Hiran
them.
through LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
yes, offline you can, while the other sessions are going on, Hiran could answer them as well. So once again, thank you very much, Hiran, for that wonderful session.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, have a good rest of the evening, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you. As we proceed with Quality Week 2023, let's once again extend our gratitude to our strategic partner 99X and education partner Sri Lanka Software Testing Board for their invaluable support in making this event possible. And with that, let's dive into our second and final session for the day. We have two remarkable individuals waiting to share their expertise with us, Niluka Sripali Monnankulama and Kausalya Ramachandran. First, let's take a moment to explore the impressive backgrounds of our speakers. Niluka Sripali Monnankulama is an associate technical lead at WSO2, bringing over 7 years of expertise in software development, testing, and quality assurance. Niluka's journey encompasses microservices, web application automation, performance testing, and the strategic crafting of automation frameworks. With a special emphasis on Cypress, she dedicates her efforts to refining test automation and enhancing overall testing processes while providing leadership and mentorship. Joining her is Gausalya Ramachandran, a senior software engineer at WSO2, boasting 5+ years of experience and an MSc in information technology. Gausalya's industrial experience covers automation, manual, and performance testing activities, including the deployment and maintenance of low-code automation pipelines. Her domain expertise in enterprise resource planning, distributed control systems, identity as a server solutions shines through in implementing automated quality gateways, and she excels in providing simplified test solutions for seamless integration within team projects. Get ready to embark on a journey into the future of test automation as we welcome our speakers to share insights on empowering test automation efforts, embracing low code, no code solutions.
Thanks, Anupama, for that introduction. Let me quickly share our screen. Hope you guys can see my screen. Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
Kausala, yeah, we can see.
Okay, so let's start with this. The future of coding is no coding at all. So this is a powerful statement from the former CEO at GitHub, which gives us a glimpse of what we can expect in the future of the software industry. So the companies that are using coding platforms and companies that implement such platforms are now leaning towards implementation with low or no code tool stacks. And along with this, the QA strategies also are aligning towards the use of these, especially when it comes to automation testing. So in this session, we are going to present how, when, and where such low-code, no-code solutions can be implemented through our testing activities. So myself and Niluka will take this session as a Q&A format to elaborate on how these solutions can be used.
Okay, so yeah, I totally agree. Wait. I totally agree. Wait. There you go. I totally agree with you, and so especially in our industry level, so we have to move forward with that, the testing things and the new technologies, yes, of course, especially in our industry, that the IT technology. So then, and the testing, actually, it's a crucial point in software development, all of the process, and we are involving from the initial phase, and we are doing some testing with parallel with development. Not only that, sometimes maybe we have to involve in maintenance level. So there are multiple things we are doing in our test process. So test cases defining and test scripting to execution, implementation, reporting, everything. So we are doing. And then when it's come to automation, it's kind of really important things, because so with these automation scripts, we are saving some time, and then we can validate that our product is working as expected, those kind of things. So then finally, what we are that the guarantee that the product is tested, and also we are not making surprises for end users. So then for my concern is that with your introduction, so then you highlighted that some two words actually, that the low code and the no code, especially that two words, because especially in automation. Let me take some example domain. So identity and access management there. So let's consider some scenarios: user management, user provisioning, federation, multi-factor authentication. Not only that, sometimes maybe there are multiple security concerns also, we have to concern that. So then this might be a single automation script, maybe include more than 1,000 lines. There are multiple assertions and we have to consider each and each scenarios. So then how I'm wondering that how we can go with that, the low code or else maybe no code things. So if we miss anything, any part of these things, so then maybe it will affect the day-to-day life of people. So then these kind of domains we are using in banking and sometimes maybe healthcare. These are very crucial things. So then sometimes maybe I didn't get the exact point. So could you please make more explain what is that low code and no code testing, and also if there's any benefits, why we should go with these kind of things? That's that I want to know that.
Okay, so let's understand what's relevant in testing. So let's say we are looking at a product, and what do we test? What do we test in that product, and who does it interest? So who are the interesting parties of a product? We have customers who use the product, and we have developers who develop the product, and managers who are interested in the delivery of the product, right? What is relevant to them when it comes to a test? Let's say we are testing a login page. We need to understand what are the scenarios that we are testing. What is the output of that scenario? Whether how many have passed, how many has failed, etc. Does it really matter to them on how we have implemented such tests, whether we've used Java or C# for the automation, whether we've used Selenium or Cypress for the automation? It doesn't. So low code, no code solutions provide us with the capability of automating things without the understanding of the coding knowledge. So most of the times, these solutions can be used by any of the stakeholders that we've mentioned here. You don't need to have an automation technical expertise to use these tools. So they are mainly having an intuitive UI and provides a great user experience with features such as record and playback and test execution on fly, and other features such as cross-browser support, reusable flows, multi-platform support, etc. So low-code solutions are basically automation tools that can be used by any of the stakeholder we discussed in the previous slide with minimal coding knowledge. That's what they advertise. So we need to have minimal coding knowledge or no coding knowledge at all when it comes to no-code solutions to use them. And with that, they also have evolved to integrate with intelligent coding partners. So we are looking at certain tools now that are using AI platforms to give better user experience. So the user only interacts with the UI to configure the flow and populate the results. So this is what you get from a low code, no code solution. So let's look at the benefit of it. As we discussed previously, the main market value there is anyone can automate.
That means that no need to worry about the much knowledge of the programming knowledge, no?
Yes, exactly. So anyone can automate. So any stakeholder who doesn't have a coding knowledge will be able to automate their relevant scenarios. So with this particular expertise, without the technical knowledge and providing the scenarios, we get the benefit of speed, accuracy, and maintenance. Why do I say accuracy? Because we can eliminate the human error that comes from the coding practices. So if there are always human errors in coding, which is why we go through extensive reviews when a code gets merged. So this accuracy and maintenance is provided by isolating the technical coding from the UI flows. Further, this again provides us with cost efficiencies and makes and again, these UIs provide human readable content. Yes.
Okay, Gaushi. So then what I got the technical terms. So then that mean what I got is that these kind of platforms, So enable and use that the engineers to do their automation scripts with the minimal hand coding. That means that less amount of human involving, human automation, that the programming those things knowledge, no? And you mentioned that there are two things and they are often rely on some UI interfaces and then the pre-built components, no? So then again, my concern, so we are kind of traditional testers now. So then sometimes maybe there are no much understanding. And so then there's some bit confusing to adopting those kind of methodology. And currently we are using some tools and platforms for the planning, coding and executing level. So with these tools, are there any standard tools to go with these kind of things, or else that the mention I things that the planning, coding, executing those things, are there any specific tools, or else if there is it, so then could you please more elaborate those things with some simple example or scenario something?
So let's look at the tools that we can use to implement low-code, no-code solutions. So for that, let's divide the testing activities into three main groups. We have planning, we plan the test, we code the test, we execute the test. So to planning, we have tools like Parasoft, Catalan. Catalan is actually a tool that allows us, facilitates planning, coding, and executing all together. And we have Parasoft, which also allows it. And in coding, we have our famous Copilot that provides us with the simplifying our code writing experience. And we have Test Result IO, BlazeMeter, and Mintify for documentation. And in execution, we have again Catalan providing us with the execution platform, and we have BlazeMeter, which is again a performance testing tool that can be utilized for this. And we have Azure DevOps. So Azure DevOps, rather than supporting low-code, no-code solutions, it provides the integration with the low-code, no-code solutions. So there are extensions for Catalan that can be used by end users to integrate them to your CI/CD pipeline using Azure DevOps. And then we have our very own API chat, which is a VS Code extension that can be used to test your APIs with open API definitions. So these are the few tools that we have in the market that we can use to implement low-code, no-code solutions. And we will be looking at a demonstration of few of them in the latter part of the demo. So let's look at how we can implement low-code, no-code solutions in action. So we have Catalan, which is a no-code testing platform that can be used throughout the planning, execution, test coding, and execution part of our testing activities. So let me quickly share my screen to show, go through the sample. So this is the Catalan framework that we have. So this is available as a free trial, and we have the test ops, which is also available as free trial. So here you can see that we have test cases, which we can clearly see what's happening within the test cases. So when we open it, we can see this is very human readable, and we don't have complicated code lengths to go through. So let's look at a simple demo of how we can write a test case and automate a test case using Catalan.
Here we are designing test cases.
Yes, exactly. So let's create a test case here. We are going to test an electronic store, an online electronic web store, where we are going to see whether some of the applications are populating. So that is our test case, and we are going to see how we can automate this without touching the code using Catalan. So I'm creating a test case, which is populating the laptops successfully. Let's record this. So how are we going to write test cases with Catalan? We don't write, we record the test cases.
So that the URL mean the base URL, is it? Okay.
We have to add the URL of a web page, and we can select the browsers that we
Okay.
need.
So then we can go with the cross browsers as well,
Yes.
no? Okay.
So we click on record and we will be navigated to the Catalan record UI. So let me quickly share my screen to that. As you can see, Catalan will automatically populate a Chrome browser where we can record it. So for a stakeholder like a customer, a BA, a business analyst, or any other non-technical stakeholders, this is quite intuitive. So we can just select what we need to populate and we will be populated with the results. So I want to,
Simply, what is the scenario are we going to
yes, we are going to see whether an electronic device is populated correctly.
Okay.
So we are going to click on the laptop and we can see it's getting populated. And I'm going to save my screen. So Catalan has an object repository that it saves all the locations. So if you aren't aware that when you're automating something, you need the XPaths and locators of what you're going to automate. So Catalan has its own object repository that it handles. Then we click on OK, and we will be populated with our test results. Let me go back to Catalan and you can see that what we have automated have already been available here.
These are the each actions what we did there, no? In that there, the click and those things and
Yes. Then we can click on run and we can run our test. So Catalan will be able to run our test execution and provide us the matrices. So this is for how you can access an low code, no code test solution. You will be able to access the test without writing any codes. So that's what you can expect from a low-code, no-code solution. So Catalan also provides us with certain other capabilities such as reporting, recording, and etc. So let's look at how the reports are published through Catalan. So this is one of the test jobs and cloud platform that Catalan provides where we can schedule our test execution, run our tests, report, create different kinds of reports, and view our test executions in frequencies, results, etc. So this is what you can expect from a coding platform, a low coding platform. What it does is rather than focusing the end user on creating complicated UIs, test cases, it focuses on providing a user experience and making the user follow through a intuitive UI to get what they desire. Yes, so I hope you got an understanding of how a low-code, no-code solution works. And let's dive into another sample of how you can test your services.
so that means in this scenario we are mainly focused on the UI test automation, no?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's dive into how we can test an API. So I hope almost all of you would have used ChatGPT, right? As I heard that most of the participants that we have here are university students, it will be much of an assistance when it comes to your research activities. So we have a very own built-in ChatGPT for our API tests. So if you have written a test API with the test API and has an open API definition, you can use API Chat, which is a free VS Code extension to invoke the resources of your API. So we have, once you add the extension, it will be populated in your sidebar and you can invoke the resources.
This
of your API
extension
here.
we can get through the Visual Studio Code.
Yes, you can get it through the VS Code. So if you have any authenticates that you need to add, and if you have any bearer tokens, API keys, you need to provide it. So I have created a service which needs an authenticate key. So I'm going to add that.
Only input is that the YAML file, no?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you have a YAML file and if you have any encryption credentials that you have, you need to provide that too. So let me quickly navigate to my screen and get the token.
So this is also not required any specific test cases, right? In these things, no?
No. So let's say we want to invoke a resource for this. So my API provides is written to check whether an IP has a risk or not. So this API chat tool can be used to check your resources. So with the natural language. So I want to check if another IP has a risk. So I can simply select and say check if
Oh, this is like a
IP.
chat GPT input, right? No?
Yes,
Okay.
has a risk. And you can check the results. So this is the simple API that I have added, which is a sample API. So if you're using, you can onboard any open API definition and simply add the VS Code plugin, and you will be able to test this particular tool. So this is how a low-code, no-code solution works. It works in natural language. We don't have to do, we need minimal less coding knowledge to access it. And to reap its benefit, any stakeholder can reap the benefit from that. So let's dive back to our session.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that then most of the things actually. So the thing is that the concern also that done, so then the demo, everything. So but I'm wondering, so where and when we can use these kind of tools, because everywhere we can't use these things. So we have to integrate with, we need to know how we can integrate and where we can integrate these things. So then I think if we go with the rapid development things, so if it is required to do our testing rapidly and maintain those things, so in that scenarios, yes, of course, we can go with that.
So mainly, so there are few understanding that we need to get on low code, no code. So when and where we use it, right? When rapid development. So in rapid development teams, usually you have a small team that works on multiple things at the same time. So they do rapid prototyping and rapid development. So in that case, there is less or no time for us to write extensive automation scripts.
Yeah.
And for that, let's say we take Cypress, we have to know JavaScript, we have to do a node version, NPM installation, we have to have a thorough understanding of how Cypress works and everything.
So parallelly also we can do the testing with that.
Yes, exactly. So while you test, you can record. So that is what that is mostly the selling point of these low-code, no-code solutions. Again, coming back to smaller teams, that's where we get the benefit. So for smaller teams, it's quite hard for them to have a separate QA, an automation team, especially.
Yeah, sometimes maybe it's we have to consider the large number of test cases, scenarios. If it is a huge domain, or if that's a small team, then is it easy? I guess, no?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I think in Agile also, it's really helpful. Also, because it will help your engineers to adapt to the Agile development, and also, and with the changes, we can simply execute and quickly execute our test and design those things if there are any changes to align with the development. And I think it's also sometimes maybe some people who are involving in POC levels, those kind of things. Sometimes maybe in that case, there are some people, they don't have much technical knowledge, especially in programming things, like BA people and technical writers. Those people also can easily write and easily try with these kind of
Exactly.
tools, no?
But that's one of the selling point of these tools as well. So you need limited automation expertise. Let's say you're a university student, who is doing a final project. We've all been through that. So during that time, do you have an understanding about how an automation tool works? Have you tested it? You would have gone through repetitive testing. So in that cases, you can use a tool like this to get the benefit of recording this test and using this again. So that is the approach that these
Easily we can cover the testing
cover it.
cases, no? So what are the
Exactly.
things we have to cover? So then we can easily catch up with these kind of things. Yeah.
Yes. Then let's dive into where we can use this test. So as I mentioned before, rapid prototyping. So let's say you're building a prototype for a customer and you have you will be doing several models of this. So while you're doing that, will you be able to write extensive code for each of those prototypes? Will you be able to maintain that code? It's a quite hassle, right?
Yeah.
So then we can use this low-code solution and reap their benefits. And again, Cartel like low-code solutions provide us with continuous integration. We can integrate with saturated work
Easily we can integrate with that
with
CI/CD
other
tools. Yeah.
tools, yes. And further agile development, again, coming up with the rapid development is also
Yeah, it's
another
most of the people are now going with agile, no? So then it's really help, I guess.
Yes. Then let's have a look at what are the challenges.
Yeah, in my mind also, then I'm thinking that there are multiple, you discuss with the multiple benefits and easiness, but there should be some challenges. Yeah.
Yes.
course.
So not all good. There are a few cons that we have to know about low-code, no-code solutions. There is a trade-off between speed and
Okay.
customization. So if we are building a script from the ground level, if there are few limitations, we have the feasibility to customize. But few of these low-code, no-code solutions that they have
Yes.
certain restrictions. So there are certain things that you can do with them.
So that I mean that, so if I write some test cases with Cypress, so that means I can't integrate with these kind of tools directly.
Exactly. So we won't be able to integrate it directly with these kinds of tools. Rather, we will have to think of another model of accessing them. Let's say we need to in Cypress we have a way of what would be this thing. Let's say we have to get the network trace in Cypress. We have the plugin that we use to get the network trace from Cypress. But in this, this might not be a feasible solution for you to get that. There are trade-offs between speed and customization. And let's look at security concerns. Of course, when we are saving credentials, value, information, we have the way of implementing our own encryption, decryption mechanisms in scripted tools. Rather, you have that feasibility in Catalan.
We need to learn how to align with our domain and our organization concept. So then, yes, we can go with this kind of tools. No?
And then we have the low-code scalability with business growth. Again, writing complicated scripts might not be this thing for a certain extent. There is still these tools are quite new. They have to go through a certain this thing to get to the level where the coding practices are currently used. So it might not be a great solution there. Again, we have to depend on the skill. So we can't all this might not be a solution for every other project there, but as I mentioned, when and where those projects can utilize this.
Yes.
So I think that brings us to the conclusion of the session. I hope you guys got an understanding about how a low-code, no-code solution works. And the tools that you use here are currently on free trial, and the API chat is free. So just have a try at it and see how these types of solutions suits your requirement.
Yeah, I also had some concerns. So I think, yes, we can gain more things with kind of things, tools and platforms. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we will begin our Q&A session. So if you already haven't typed in your question, please do so now, and our speaker will make sure to respond to them. And we already have a few questions in the chat. I hope I'm audible now. Thank you once again, Niluka and Gausalya, for that informative and insightful session on empowering test automation efforts, embracing low-code, no-code solutions. Now we will begin our Q&A session. So if you already haven't typed in your questions in the chat, please do so now, and our speakers will make sure to respond to them. And we already have a few questions in the chat, Niluka and Kausalya, and let me read them out so that you could easily answer them. So the first one is, even though we can record and easily generate the scripts using different tools, how can we maintain our code along with different models like page object model?
Yes. Page object model. Yeah. Page object model is something that we can is something that is more of a code based. So the mindset of such low code work code solutions is for a non-technical or a less technical background. So let's look at how, let me give you a sample demo on how Catalan handles these objects. Maybe you will get an understanding there, but try to get the understanding of low-code, no-code solutions are for people with less technical experience. And so POM might not be something that these tools facilitate, but there is a way you can maintain your object repository. So let me quickly go to Catalan. So in Catalan, they have an object repository. So within the object repository, you can maintain your test case, maintain your elements, the objects. So if you have, let's say, login page and then and a page to populate your electronic store items. So then you can have a page for login page and a page for the electronic store items and populate your results. So that is available, but we need to get the understanding of we need to get an idea that these low-code, no-code solutions are usually for stakeholders with less technical background and might not be having the POM solution in every aspect of it. I hope I gave you an understanding of how it can work.
Okay, moving on to the second question we have in line. After creating scripts from these tools, how can we avoid the challenge of debugging failed test scripts without any coding knowledge?
That is the part here. So most of these in UIs are intuitive, right? So let's say one of my tests fails in catalog. So what I usually do is we navigate through the test and we see where it has failed. And then you have the capability of re-recording your test. So the intuitive UI that they provide is always facilitating this. We don't have the how I can explain that is we can debug. Catalan provides us a mechanism to debug, but you rather focus on the re-recording part of it. If you debug, you will have to go through each and every step. So if you can say check Catalan, think, yes. So it will fail at a particular point. So in that you can see which of your step has failed, and Catalan runs these tests in the UI showing the UI, so you can check where your test has failed. So when you're debugging, you have the script also populated in Catalan that provides. So these tools are still evolving. So at a certain point, currently they are providing both the script and the manual execution of it. So you have the facility to debug. So debug the code, but most of the time when these tests fail, a particular step fails and you will be able to identify which step has failed. Further, on failures, Catalan has a great way of taking the visual testing screenshot. So let me quickly share my other screen. So Catalan has another capability called the visual testing, where you can see the test cases. So you can take a selective screenshot and see whether at what point my test has failed or what is the place my test has failed. So these are few of the capabilities that are available in the current low-code solutions that can be used for this. Yes.
Thank you for that answer, Kausalya. And we have a few more questions, and let me bring up the next one. How to handle dynamic page like a grid? Also, how to maintain test on changes?
Yes. This the maintain tests on changes and dynamically handle pages like a grid. So we can use and we can focus the element in Catalan to handle access handles like grids. But the second part of your question, which is, I suppose it's, what was the second part of that question, Manipur?
Yes, Kausalya, let me repeat it. How to handle dynamic page like a grid? Also, how to maintain tests on changes?
Tests on changes, yes. This depends on tool to tool. So if you're using one particular low-code solution and if you're using another low-code solution, it's quite different how they handle. So how Catalan handles that is, you can select a particular step and you can do the re-recording mechanism in Catalan. But this differs from tool to tool, and it depends on which one you're practicing. Yes.
Okay. Coming up with another question. If elements in the domain object model have dynamically generated IDs, would that add flakiness to the test scenario?
This is not on a low code no code testing perspective, but this is a common testing issue that is there. So if we have dynamic generated IDs, you will have there should be a mechanism to locate that particular element correctly. So most of the time you can either use XPath or any other locators, that is fine, but what we recommend is to have a proper ID or a data test ID as in Cypress to take care of these particular issues. This is not a low code, no code solution, but in Catalan, you have the mechanism of editing the particular locator. So if you use that, you will be able to easily identify where this particular element is, and you can easily identify the change. So that is one of the challenges that I would say in Catalan. Sometimes it does take the dynamic ID that is populated, but
Customization is something, yeah,
there are few cases in customization. That is one of the challenges that we discussed as well. How we trade off between speed and customization. So this is not only the hiccup of automation. This is not a hiccup of the automation tool itself, but this is one of the things that we can come across when we are automating products. So most of the time we would have to go to another stable way of locating that element. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Kausalya. And we have another question which says, can we automate for desktop applications using this tool?
I haven't used Catalan to automate desktop applications, but there are a few tools like AutoIT, which you can use to automate a few of the desktop clients. But there is a way to automate a window, but I haven't used Catalan for that. You're free to try. Yes.
And the final question in the chat, how can we overcome the limitations of low code, no code solutions?
How can we limit the overcome of low code, no code solutions? That is it. It is still an evolving concept. So not all solutions are built to, we don't have a lot of solutions that provides us with this. And the main thing is not all these solutions are free, right? So we have a few ways of experimenting with them. So of course, the limitation depends on the tool itself and what you are trading off to it. So depends on the tool that you have selected, which and tool, and you have to go through an extensive research on that tool before selecting. So a few ways of overcoming the limitations that we discussed in Catalan, which was speed and customization, security concerns, the scalability, and etc. Depends on your project team. right? If you have a team and if you have your test requirement itself, it depends on the test requirement mainly. So if your test requirement suits the pros that are provided by the tool, you are free to go with it. If there are a few challenges, then we will have to, if there are challenges and if they are too much to bear with, we might have to go for a different tool. So depending on the tools, we might have to have a small trade-off between the challenges. Yes.
Depends on that the domain as well as the use.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's all for the questions we have for the moment. So once again, thank you very much, Niloka and Kausalya, for that wonderful session. And if you have any questions, I hope you could reach both of them through LinkedIn. So in case you have any doubts or anything regarding what they discussed today.
Thank you. Thank you, Anupama, for that. Thank you for providing us with this opportunity. And yeah, I would like to invite the audience to try these tools and see what the benefits that you can get from it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Once again, we are so grateful to our speakers today, Hiran, Niluka, and Gausalya, for joining us today and sharing their knowledge and expertise with everyone joining in. With that being said, we conclude day 3 of Quality Week 2023. Once again, a special thank you to our strategic partner 99X and our esteemed education partner Sri Lanka Software Testing Board, whose support has been instrumental in bringing you this exceptional event. Thank you all for participating today, and we encourage you to participate in tomorrow's sessions where Kishan Navaratna, Ionis Papadakis, and Alexander Romano will be joining in to speak on boosting your testing efficiency with AI tools, strategies for testing micro front-end applications, and how to test a blockchain, respectively. One humble request before we wind up. Please take some time to fill out the survey we have mailed over to your registered email addresses for us to gain more insights into improving the Quality Week sessions. And with that said, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Looking forward to your participation in the upcoming sessions as well.